welcome back to Spinalcast. Joining us today is Jenny Taylor and her mother, Lori Taylor, both of whom are very involved in the SCI community. Jenny, Lori, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we're super excited to have both of you. For our listeners at home, Jenny was injured in a car accident when she was just 16. Which you're going on 20 years now, right? With having dealt with your injury and growing through it?
Yeah, November 1st will be 20 years.
Wow. Well, just wanted to extend our greatest thanks for joining us for today's episode. And I think we're just going to go ahead and kind of jump into some general questions and see where things go from there. Is that okay with everybody?
Yep, sounds great.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. So Jenny, I want to kind of start with you. Can you just tell us about your accident, kind of what took place and what was going through your head?
Well, I don't remember
Yeah.
anything about the accident. I just know a little bit of information. I know that we were what did you say? That we were on the highway and the car was going 60 miles per hour on like an off ramp. And is that right?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Well, we might have to switch over here, but
No, it's okay.
Were you driving? That might have to switch. No, I wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah. There were 5 of us in the car.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, but it was a single car rollover.
Scary. So Lori, when did you finally hear about what had happened? And like, how long did it take until they kind of reached out to you and let you know that something had happened?
Well, her accident, see, I'm much more clear than Jenny is.
Yeah, I don't
by
really
every
know.
second.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yes, so I was at home, and her accident happened about 7:00 on a Friday night, and I had a knock on my door about 7:20. And it was the Minnetonka police. And I'm like, oh, great. And she's out with her friends, and, they got into some trouble. I mean, last thing I ever dreamed of was a car accident.
Right.
And the policeman asked if Jenny was my daughter. And I said, yes. And I noticed he was holding a phone, and he had her cell phone. And he gave that to me, and I'm like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
And he just told me there's been an accident, and I need to take you to HCMC right now. And I'm like, oh, great. Well, it didn't really sink in right away, and I was supposed to pick up my other daughter and her friend later that night. So I just kind of walked. I wasn't in any hurry. I just kind of called, and tried to get another ride for her, and he finally just said, you don't understand. We need to go right now.
Wow.
So we went, sirens on in the whatever, going 80 miles an hour. And so Jenny actually was airlifted.
Wow.
Yes. So he brought me to the hospital, and it still didn't even sink in, that it was that serious.
Yeah. And everybody else in the vehicle were equally as badly hurt, or what was kind of the outcome for the other people in the vehicle as well?
Actually, Jenny was the most serious hurt. There was a couple people who were not hurt at all.
Wow.
But Jenny definitely was most seriously hurt.
Yeah.
So Jenny, how long would you say that you were in the hospital following the accident then?
Well, I was at HCMC for about 3 weeks, and then I transferred over to Gillette. Gillette Children's
for
Gillette Children's
Mm-hmm.
for the remainder. So I was probably in the hospital about 6 months
Wow. And
altogether.
did the two of you have the opportunity to visit a lot in the hospital and talk with one another, or, kind of,
My mom was there every day.
I never
wow,
left her side.
wow,
I a lot of times, well, for the first 3 weeks, pretty much spent every night there, with a little break. And but yeah, no, I slept at the hospital, so it was pretty touch and go for a while. So
I
it was
can only
kind of a
imagine.
scary time.
When did you recognize that this was going to be a pretty long-term thing? Were they pretty upfront with you and saying that this is looking like if she makes it through, it's going to be a lifelong thing, or was there hope that it wasn't going to be as bad as it ended up being?
No, they did not give us any hope.
Hmm.
So pretty much knew from the beginning that um, she probably wasn't going to get better, just the nature of her spinal cord injury. Um, so yeah, I guess every time I would see her little toe move, I would stare at her body all day long just to see if something would move.
Right.
And I just remember her toe moving, and they just kind of said, that's involuntary, that she's not doing that. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But it took a long time for that to sink in.
Yeah,
And
go for it, Jenny.
I was gonna say, and during at least the first week, they had me highly sedated, so I don't remember anything about at least the first week
Yeah.
of being in the hospital.
So Jenny, would you say that the longer you were in the hospital, did you kind of get restless of being in the hospital? Were you just like ready to move on?
Well, I mean, I wasn't really, I think in the beginning, I didn't even grasp the intensity of what happened to me. So I didn't know a long term from there.
Right.
So
following the 6 months that you were in the hospital or more, there was a point where you got to go home, and I'm sure both of you were incredibly excited about that, maybe a little bit nervous. But what kind of things did you do to the home to kind of prepare it for your homecoming, or how did that affect the two of you?
Well, number one, we had no idea what to expect. There's no way she could have moved back to the house that we had. And so all within less than a month, I found a house that was accessible.
listed.
Or what? Well, it was listed accessible. I had no idea what that actually meant.
Right.
So all I closed and everything, everybody was just fantastic and making things happen very quickly. And so the house was accessible, but obviously we had no idea what the extent, what that was going to mean. And having home care, there came a day when the doctor said, she's got to go. And I said, well, we didn't have enough nurses lined up.
Right.
And he basically gave me the option of putting her in a nursing home or me taking care of her.
Right.
So that's what I chose.
Well, and I don't think anybody would blame you for that. I think everybody would make that decision. Actually, that leads me to one thing Jenny wanted to talk about was kind of the discussion around the 24/7 nursing needs and how that probably played a pretty major role in stress on the family dynamic and how things work. So, Jenny, did you want to kind of expand on that at all?
Well, it's not easy being paralyzed from the neck down. It's not easy having someone always be by your side 24/7. But when we got home from the hospital, that wasn't enough. Like, that wasn't there.
Right.
So it, like, our schedule was pretty much not even 50% full of nurses. So, like, the calendar looked blank pretty much. And it was my mom that was always there
Well, I
taking care of me.
absolutely. Well, Lori, I think that would be stressful for anybody in that situation. Did you feel prepared at all for that, or was it like I am being thrown into the deep end of a swimming pool and told to float? And I can only imagine that would be incredibly stressful.
Well, it was very stressful, and thank goodness the job that I had, they were absolutely incredible and really gave me as much time off as I could. But if I tried to go to work when I did have a nurse, I felt like I had to be at home. When I was at home, I felt like I had to be at work. So eventually I did have to quit. Taking care of her and all the responsibilities was a full-time job in itself.
Absolutely.
So a lot of stress, yes.
When do you feel like things kind of started to slow down then? So I know, you get home, the stress of finding nursing and having somebody there 24/7 and, getting into a groove and starting to feel more comfortable. How long do you think that took before it felt more comfortable? I see Jenny whispering or something. What are you whispering over there?
There really hasn't been a point.
Oh,
It's always touch and go.
It's every day. To this day, 20 years later, I still stress. I don't know. I mean, there might be a nurse on a schedule, or there might be 6 open shifts in a week. Sometimes, they call in. It's just every day. I never know.
yeah.
And we have an incredible staff of nurses, but unfortunately, there just isn't enough of them.
Right.
So, I think that, things, when you say that like, get back to normal or notice a change, there's good times and there's bad times. And I think we just kind of go with the flow and take a day at a time, because every day could be different.
Yeah. I think that's a very healthy mentality to have going into it too. I can only imagine it gets unbelievably stressful when, someone you're counting on falls through and then it all falls back on you. And so taking it one day at a time, I think, is key to being happy, even though you're in a situation as you are. So that's awesome. I guess leading towards kind of a different conversation, there's obviously been tons of advancements in research in spinal cord injury. Mort Gear Paralysis Fund, which you've been around with for numerous years. We help seed some grant money for spinal cord injury research. Is there any research that really kind of piques your interest, or have you ever tried to become part of a trial of any kind or things like that?
I was involved with like a lot of the people in the spinal cord injury group in Minnesota, but I've never wanted to be in any trial. I guess I've always said that the things that have happened for a reason, and I never looked at wanting to change that.
Interesting.
I guess it sounds like a different way of dealing or saying things. Because I know a lot of people probably in my situation would want to do anything they could to gain anything that they could.
Yeah. Well, have you been approached at all, being that your injury is a specific type or anything like that, by any doctors saying we need more people like you for this trial? Have you ever been approached?
As far as I know all the trials that are out there right now are not to the point where it's at my injury level.
Mm.
My injury's at C1, C2, and I know that they just started trials for C4. I am a little bit up and coming on some of the trials, but definitely not all of them.
Well, that was going to lead me to my next question, which was more so around the fact that, being that I'm not someone who's injured and I'm involved with the Morton Cure Paralysis Fund, I'm very interested in the research being done. But I'm not experiencing the injury every day. And so how often just in a general sense, when you think of other people who have been injured that you've met throughout your lifetime, do you think the majority of you pay attention to those things, or is it less kind of front of mind because you're dealing with this day in, day out? I'm not worried about, 10 years from now, I'm worried about tomorrow and whether or not I have a nurse coming to the house. So do you think most people pay attention or not?
I think it probably depends on the person and depends on the injury.
Yeah.
And whether or not they're able to go out and look at some of those things. Because I know a lot of people that have spinal cord injuries that are in that place, in the trials,
right,
and stuff like that. But yeah, we definitely are more focused on nursing and the everyday. I mean, my day is constantly filled with, things that are interjected.
Yeah.
Every minute, every hour. So it takes a lot to be in my position.
I can only imagine. And it's, even just watching or communicating with you, to get this podcast recorded, I can tell that you're both very busy individuals, and it's not for a lack of interest in participating in anything. It's that you're busy. You have a lot going on every day of your lives. So I guess.
Yeah. And I think what Jenny was, I just think what Jenny was trying to say, I mean, it's not that, because there was a period of time in the beginning, but you have to remember that was 20 years ago, and the research wasn't there. I mean, they didn't have the things that they do now, which is, fantastic, and the progress that they've made.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to say Jenny wasn't interested, I mean, I don't know if I don't think she was trying to say that.
Right.
You're right.
I just trying to say is that after a certain amount of time and being told that there wasn't anything for her, that she just kind of put that part of it out of her mind. And the same with me. I mean, I guess we were told by multiple people that there wasn't research for Jenny's injury, that there wasn't enough of research going on. So we need more of that.
No.
For the people for coming up people,
Yeah, I mean, well, it's kind of the boy who cried wolf, right? Like you're hopeful until it's like I've been told no so many times, I'm going to lose hope eventually. Because it's not.
And I think that's what she was trying to say, is that she's not looking backward, she's looking forward, kind of thing, as far as she knows as of right now that there really isn't, I guess, the research for her,
right,
that can help her. But we're hoping that keeps continuing, and that there will be, for people in the future.
Yeah.
Well, so Jenny, you mentioned it's a C1, C2 injury. For the people listening who might not understand what that entails, can you just provide us a little more detail on kind of, when you say a C1, C2 injury, what does that mean?
Well, your spinal cord, or your spine has, all different types of vertebrae, and C1, C2 is the highest.
Okay.
2 vertebrae in your spine, and
so like right up here, right up in this area,
up at the top. Yep. And so, it like when you have an injury that high, like it can, the bones can go into the spinal cord, and it could either, like bruise the spinal cord, it could crush it, or it could even completely sever the spinal cord.
Mm.
And depending on which type of injury, like it does, or damage it does to the spinal cord, depends on what, like, what the person can do.
Right. The long-term effects, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Now that it's been, almost 20 years since the injury and the accident, how often do you still talk about it? Do you talk about the accident very often or get asked about it very often, or is it few and far between nowadays?
Yeah, we still talk about it. I mean, it's part of Jenny's life, and we have decided a long time ago that we would celebrate each year on November 1st because Jenny's alive.
Yeah.
And she shouldn't be. So thank goodness for that. And yeah, we celebrate it. And so yeah, we still get asked about it quite a bit. And I think it's good to talk about it. So.
And another thing is if I do go out sometimes, do motivational speaking, or
Awesome.
to schools and different events, and that's another thing, is that I talk about what happened, and going forward from here. So
Very cool. Well, awesome. And then I guess the other interesting dynamic is the two of you, I'm sure, spend a lot of time together and have spent a lot of time together over the past 20 years. So has there been high points and low points to that, or has it all been a positive experience as far as spending time with one another? I guess I'll start with Jenny. Jenny, how has it been spending all this time with your mother over the last 20 some years?
well, just like
just like any mother and daughter.
That's what I was gonna say. And just like any mother and daughter, it's one of those things where you don't always spend every day, together.
Right.
No, we do.
No, I mean, I wouldn't. Normally, I would say
Right,
you
right.
wouldn't always spend every day with your mom, but we do spend every day together. And I think that we, have.
Oh, well, it's definitely it just like as Lee said, any mother and daughter. We have our good, high points and low points, and it is different. I for many years, and I guess still to this year, kind of tried to. I'm very protective. Kind of tried to put her in a little bubble,
Mhm.
but as the years have gone on, I mean, I used to come down every single morning to her room, and I think finally, one day she's kind of like, Mom, you don't have to come down till lunch.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, it's definitely, we've had our, our challenges, but I think
we've made it work.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's very apparent.
We're sitting here together.
Yeah, there's no.
That's one thing to say.
No wall up between you for sure.
I'm hanging on to her. I can pull her hair if she says something bad. She can feel that.
Yeah.
No.
Well, so Jenny, is there anything specifically that you'd like to say about your mom when we're on the podcast here? Anything you'd like to just mention about your mom?
It better be good.
I just want to say how much I appreciate you, or over the years. I know it's not been easy, and especially when there's no nurse. It You're kind of thrown into those situations where you've had to help, and you you don't really say no.
I can't say no.
I know you can't. I know you can't cook
No,
on low power mode. Yeah, I know you can't, but
no, I'm kidding.
still, I mean, I could be in a nursing home right now, but instead you said no and you wanted to bring me home. So I'm grateful for that.
That's good.
Well, and Lori, is there something you'd like to say about Jenny or to Jenny while we're on the podcast at all?
Yeah, just how proud of her that I am, and I, you can't imagine this life for her, for family, unless you live it. And I don't know how she does it from day to day. And so, yeah, I'm very proud of her.
Awesome. Well, I think that kind of wraps us up here. So thank you, both Lori and Jenny, for joining us for today's episode. For all of you watching at home, if you'd like to read a little bit of Jenny's blog, you can always check that out. It's the site that breathes.blogspot.com. I'll make sure that's in the description. And she's also pretty involved in the ABLE, ABLE, or Actively Based Locomotor Exercises program at Courage Kenny. So information for those things will be down in the description. And you can always reach out to MCPF, and we'd be more than happy to get you in contact with these two if you'd like to connect with them further. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you throw us a like, a thumbs up, and a subscribe so that you know when new episodes drop. And if you're listening to us on podcast platforms, as always, we'd love a follow. But Jenny, Lori, thank you again so much for joining us for our podcast. I hope you had fun.
So we did. Thanks.
Perfect. Well, in that case, I think we're going to close out. And thanks, everybody. Talk to you in a month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.